This tutorial is going to go through how to do brush blending and blend for a digital illustration. So first thing you're going to do is set up your art board. So once you open up Photoshop, you're going to click Create New. We're going to do a print document. So we'll do 8.5 by 11. So go to the top, click Print. If yours isn't defaulting at 8.5 by 11, you can click Letter. Just double check that you're on inches, type in 8.5 by 11, 300 resolution if you're not seeing that showing up. Okay, we're going to call this Skill Builder 6. You're welcome to add additional information if you want, which is going to be just brush blending, just practice. All right, we can keep the color mode this way and our background's going to be white. We'll click Create. All right, so we're going to get a few things set up here, and I'll explain some details as we go through this. So one, you're going to want to be able to see your swatches. I do have the newest version of Photoshop right now, so your swatches might look a little bit different than mine, but they're going to be in a similar place. If you're not finding any of these palettes, you're going to go up to Window, and you can always choose the palettes you need from here. All right, then we've got layers, and we're working with our brush tool, and we'll always also use the rectangle tool here. When we're working with colors, just to review, we've got two colors that we can set here. So we're going to have a foreground color, which is the color we'll use with the brush, and then a background color, which we can access and use by clicking the X on our keyboard or just the arrow keys right here. We'll toggle between those two. All right, so we are going to create a selection for our blending just because otherwise you can see when I paint, it just kind of goes all over, which isn't necessarily bad, but we're going to just contain it for this. So we're going to create a new layer. So click the plus. We're going to go to the rectangle tool over here, and you're going to click and drag and create a rectangle towards the top of the paper, and it's going to take up about a third of the space. You can see my marching ants here. You can see I'm on my separate layer. This way I can go back, delete, change, edit, rotate, all of those fun things when it's on separate layers. So we're going to be working on lots of layers as we're doing this. All right, then we're going to go to the brush tool. You're going to set up your two colors here. So you can choose from swatches. I suggest that you use two colors that are going to mix well. So think about primary and secondary color mixing. So I have red and yellow or a magenta and yellow to kind of create this orangish color. I think you could do like yellow and blue and see if you could get kind of a greenish. I recommend you do more of a cyan. Sometimes it blends better. So think about two colors that you can blend into each other. So they should be very different. Don't do like a light blue and a dark blue. They should be very different colors. All right, once you've done that and set up your swatches or your two colors here, so I can click there, I can click on swatches, your choice. Then we're going to do what's called just an eyedropper blending. All right, so you're going to start on the top. We have different options for our brushes. For now, we're going to bring the hardness all the way up. And this is also where we can change our brush size. Okay, we want it really big to start. I highly recommend that you use the bracket key as you're working with your brushes to change size. So just a quick reminder, I'm going to put some text in here. It's very large. We'll make it smaller. The bracket key is left bracket key, looks like this. Oops, it is using white. Let's change that. All right, left bracket key looks like this. It's right next to the letter P on your keyboard, and that is going to make your brush smaller, and right bracket key looks like this, and that's going to make your brush bigger. Okay, so use those in order to change your brush size. All right, so I'm going to go back to my brush. I've got a hard edge. I've got a large brush. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick few swipes, and I'm going to make one side one color, and then I'm going to press X on my keyboard or the arrow keys right here, or arrows right there. I'm going to press X, and I'm going to bring my other color up. Boom. All right. Now I'm going to start to blend. Whenever we blend and we want to have a soft gradation of color, we're always going to have a soft edge on our brush. So I'm going to go to my options bar right here. I'm going to bring the hardness down quite a bit, maybe 15 to 20%. You can always play with that, but that's what I'm going to start with. And then I'm going to bring my opacity, for the moment, I'm going to bring it to about 20%. Okay. So when I have that softer edge, I haven't changed my opacity yet, but when I have that softer edge, you can see it's automatically starting to make a little bit of a fade, but I want this to be a very gradual change. So this is not enough of a fade at the moment. Okay. So I'm going to undo that. Now, when I come to my opacity, I can see if I bring that down, it's not going to be that full color. Okay, it's just going to be a little bit of it. So bring your opacity down to, let's try about 15% or so. I'm at 16. What we're going to do is just on this line, we want that to blend. I'm going to go over that and make my brush just a little bit smaller. I'm going to go over that a few times. Okay, what that's doing is it's starting to create this kind of in-between color. Now, in order to really blend this line and have it be a gradual change, I'm going to need to sample this color. So on the left side, I've got my eyedropper, which I can click on, or I can simply click on the eye on my keyboard. I'm going to sample that kind of mid color that I've created. Okay, so you can see it's changed the color here. I'm going to press B for brush, or I can click on my brush tool there. But if I click B, it's going to bring up my brush tool again, and I can click, and I'm going to paint over this area. And now you can see it's starting to change my pinkish side to more of that in-between color, okay? And that's starting to fade that a little bit. I can bring it over here a little ways. I'm moving my brush up and down, but if you want to make your brush a little smaller and try moving it left and right, sometimes that'll blend it. Sometimes that makes it look streaky. So you can try either technique to see how it's going to work for you. I'm going to go over that line just a little bit more. And now, once again, I've kind of created this in-between line or color. So I'm going to do eye for eyedropper. I'm going to sample this. It's going to be a little bit darker than what I had. And I'm going to I like working with a bigger brush. And I'm going to go over that a few more times. And you can see that's starting to blend that color a little bit more. I can bring it over here to the left. And I'm getting more of a gradual change from one color. So you should use that whole space here to kind of give it a gradual change. I'm going to sample that color again. Boom, a little bit darker this time, and brush over that. I'm going to bring my opacity up just a little bit more now that I've kind of created this base, and I'll cover that up. There we go, a little bit better. Now, if it gets a little bit too far to your edges, like I think that's a little bit too dark, I'm actually going to sample this color now because it's kind of this yellowish, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to start to blend that over here. That's too dark, so I'll come back to that again. So I'm going to bring up my eyedropper. I'm going to sample that in between color, B for brush. I'm going to come, and I'm getting kind of a streaky line because I need to soften the edge of my brush a little bit more and bring my opacity back down. So it's a little more of a gradual change. And a little bit nicer. And I think that's a pretty good change. It's a little bit orangey here. So once again, I'll maybe sample this color, B for brush, and bring in more of that pinkish color through here. Okay, so it's a little bit of a back and forth dance with this of sampling colors, bringing them on top with a low opacity, and kind of getting a gradual change coming through. All right, that's good for that one. We're going to do another one. Do a Command D to take off that selection. We're going to do a new layer here. And then we're going to bring up another rectangular selection down below. We're going to do a different way of blending in here. So I've got a new layer, new selection on in a different spot. And I would recommend that you do the same color so you can see what your change is going to look like with a different technique. So I'm going to go back to my brush tool. I'm going to bring my opacity to 100% because I want to create a solid color. This time we're going to just bring one color as our base, and we'll eventually bring the other one on top. I like to bring the darker color on top of the light. We'll flip that as well eventually, but start by putting down your lightest color. So I have a feather in here, which is fine as long as I can fill this whole thing. So I'm painting up this whole thing with yellow. Boom, that's good. All right, now I'm going to switch this to my color that I want to blend it with. I'm going to keep a soft edge. Once again, I'm going to bring my opacity down quite a bit. I'll try 17%. And I'm going to just do a little sweep on here. So you can see that it creates kind of a lighter effect, which is nice. Once I go over that same area again, though, it's going to get darker. Okay, so I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to start down on this side, and I'm just going to do a quick little sweep and move to my right. And then this part's pretty dark already, so I'm not even going to go in that area at the moment. And I'm going to just on this side, bring that up more. And then as I go to the right, I'm not going to bring any color in there yet. I'm just going to concentrate my color on the right side. So I'm going over this multiple times. You can see that it's getting darker. And then I'm going to come back and kind of sweep over in some of these areas. I'm going to undo that, Control Z, because it's getting a little bit dark. And then if it doesn't fade super well here, I'm just going to switch my X and bring my yellow back up, and I can bring in a little more of my yellow here with my opacity lower and try and kind of fade that a little bit more. So it's more of a gradual, even change and not quite so streaky. Okay, my scratch discs are full because it is, I just need to delete some stuff off my computer. But that's pretty good overall. I would add a little bit more of like the yellow and then the pink in order to be a little more of a gradual change, but that's kind of that idea of going on top of it, creating a gradual change that way. We'll do a Command D. Yeah, I would definitely add a little more in there, but unfortunately I'm not going to be able to demo that at the moment. But then we'll do one more layer here. And I want you to label these just as a reference so you know what they are. So the top one here, if we click, this is going to be our eyedropper blend. I'm going to make this smaller. And I'm going to choose a color that I can actually see. Boom. All right. And then the bottom one is going to be top blend. I like the way that is positioned on there. So I'm going to do a Control J. I'll just duplicate that layer, and then I can drag this down, and I can double click on this, and I can name this top blend. And I'm just naming it that just so I know that I literally just painted right on top of a color. And you can combine the techniques, but those are just different ways that you can blend. All right, you are going to save this as a Photoshop document and a JPEG. So you'll do File, Save As, and click Photoshop, and then do one more Save As, and then choose JPEG. Okay, and you'll turn both of those in your Project 6 folder. All right, happy painting. Keep trying this until you get nice, smooth blends.